Yeah. Hi everyone. Welcome to Python programming for data science. So today we'll finish the last thing before we start data science pathways, right? So usually when you have a data, it could be created in a list, for example. You could read it from a list. You could write to a list, or it could be go to a file. Okay. Whether the file is a text or binary file, right? You agree? And most likely with the current applications, where is the data stored at? In the database, right? Okay. So database is the way where you store the data, especially if it's a relational database. Okay, relational database, because you could write and save from the database. You could bring it to your program. And nowadays also the database does not need to be local, it could be where? In the cloud, right? Okay, in the network. So you could have the database in one continent, you could have your server application or application on the server somewhere, and the client from everywhere, right? So that's really what you need to do. So in this class we don't teach database. We presume that you have all the basics of the database. Okay, for the sake of the demonstration in here, we use SQLite, which is a very light database, and it does not need a database management system. Okay, for example, Oracle, okay, needs database management system. Okay, Microsoft SQL, it needs a database management system. That means a server where you look at what you want it. And here in SQLite is like a file, like Access, for example, in Microsoft, right? It's a file. It's a database, but you could save it in your desktop or in the network, and you could access it, and you could run some queries. It's not very advanced, but it's enough for us to use in this course, and that's what we will do in this class. All right? So why we are talking about database in here? Because the data is saved in the database, right? So when you write a program, when you write your own program, okay, when you write your own program, this is program, all right, it has to access your database. Let's say it's SQLite, right? SQLite. So to be able to get the data, and you know what is database in a relational database? It's tables, right? We have tables, right? Kind of tables or multiple tables, okay? Right? Multiple tables. The table could have a primary key, and this, for example, could have a foreign key, which is a primary key somewhere else, in a different table. And it could create a relation between these tables for querying the data, right? So you have your program, you need to fetch the data, or you need to write the data to the database. What is the first thing you have to do?
Import the data.
You have to connect. So you have to have a command to connect to the database, right? When you need to call somebody, okay, you need to over the phone, what you have to do first? You have to connect to that person. You need to get data from a database with billions of databases in the whole world. What you have to do, you have to connect with them. All right? In SQLite, this database is just a file in your computer. It's just a file in your computer. Okay? It might not require password and a username and password. But if you are using, for example, SQL, or using like Oracle, or these advanced databases, to connect that you need to have credentials. You need to have credentials, especially if they are in the server side, right? So you need to connect. After you connect, what you have to do, you have to create a cursor, like you see in the screen cursor. Cursor is like a temporary memory that it reads, it saves the stuff that you need to write to the database, or you need to read from the database. Go to cursor. We'll show you in a second, right? All right. After you write, let's say that you need to write to the database. Okay, when you issue the command write, for example, a field, Okay, field. Is it going to be saved right away in the database? No, it will be saved in the memory. To save it in the database, you have to commit it. So there is a command called commit. Commit in the database, right? Okay. So basically, there is to be able to connect to the database, to fetch data or to write data. All right. You have to issue series of 5 kind of commands. Okay. That it enables you to do that. Then after that, you are connected. You could, do whatever. You could read and write to it. Think about the example we did before for the movies. When we started this class, where is the movies stored? In a list. In a list. So you go and when you modify the movie in the list, you shut down the program. You go back to the program. Where is the data? Gone. Because in the list. The list resides where? In the memory. In the memory, right? Then we say that's not working. Every time we modify the movies, it's gone. Then after that, we start creating the data where?
File.
In the file. So you could write and read it from the file, right? Okay. But the file, you cannot, it's not relational. So you have one table. It's like writing to one table. You cannot have a queries. We call it queries. Now you have a database. You could issue a query. You could issue a query. Okay. That's the first part of the lecture. That's the first part of the lecture. How to access database. We're gonna take SQL or SQLite as an example, but you could use any different kind of databases. You could connect to Oracle database. You could connect to Microsoft SQL database, any kind of database. Okay, and databases in general, how many types? In general, how many types? 3. What are they?
NoSQL.
NoSQL, good.
And relational.
Relational.
And big data.
And big data. Okay, I take that. Myself, it was in my mind NoSQL and relational. Big data is like it could combine both of them, right? Okay. So relational. What's relational? And this is not a class in database. You're supposed to know a little bit around database. I'll give you a link. You could teach yourself a little bit about databases. But what is relational database? It's built of tables. Built of tables. Okay. So here, for example, okay, you could have ID, first name, last name, whatever. This is a table, and you could have another table in here. Okay. So in here, for example, for address, you could have address. All right, and you're gonna have, for example, in here, okay, ID. Let's say. All right, ID. So a person could, how many ID could have a person, a student? How many ID?
One more.
One ID, right? Okay, one ID. So what is this primary key? Primary key. That means you cannot have similar ID because it's a primary key, right? Okay. Let's change address in here to a phone. Okay, a person, how many phone could have? Many. All right. So to identify the person, you're gonna use ID, but this is what we call this here, a foreign key. A foreign key. So for example, we could have an ID in here, number 5, for example. Okay. First name Shakur. Last name Abu Znaid, for example, all right? And you could have a key here called 5, and the number, for example, 203, another 5 called 203, 203, 767, whatever, 1111, this 576, 1111, for example, right? So this is a foreign key, okay? Now, if I need to get information about Shakur, okay, I need to have his first name and I need to have his phone number. What do I have to do?
Select first name. and-
First name coming from where? From this table. And the phone number coming from where? From this table. So what do I have to do? I have to join. I have to join the two tables. That's why we call it relational databases. That's why we call it relational databases. Because you are looking for the relations between the tables to create a query. Clear? Clear? Okay? So you have multiple tables. We try to join them together. Okay, once I join this table with this table, okay, on ID equals 5. ID equals 5. How many lines are gonna have? How many records are gonna have?
One line?
Huh?
One line?
Actually 2. Because the first line will be, okay, Shakur, Abu, name, and 5, of course, the ID, and then I have the first phone number, 767-1111. And then I have another 5, which is 5, Shakur, Abu's name. Okay, I'm gonna have 203, 576, 1111. Right? When I join them, that's the records I'm gonna get. That's a query, right? Right? I could write a query, okay, where our students live in Connecticut. So how can I do this query, for example? How can I know the students live in Connecticut from these two tables? From phone number, from the area code, right? So I could, okay, pick up everybody that his phone starts with 203, for example. Right? If I have, for example, the date of birth in here, I could have a query, okay, list all students who were born in this year, 1980, for example. Anybody born in 1980 here? 1980? 86? Okay. All right. So database is a wide topic. Okay. You need to know it, and here just I could give you some introduction for it. Okay. Let's see what I have in the PowerPoint. Are we good? Any questions? Okay. So as you see in here, okay, there is SQL like what we're gonna use. There is MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server. There is many. Okay. There is a difference between the first one and the second one. I just said that. You know what's the difference? This is kind of embedded database. This will gonna require database management system. Okay, a server. So there is a primary key in here. So for example, movie ID, the category ID, the name, the year, the minute. Primary key, that means you should not repeat. It's a primary key. You cannot have repeated primary key. That's like exactly like student ID. It's kind of a primary ID for every student. You cannot have two students have the same ID. All right, so this explains the relational database we just explained. Okay, you could go over it. So relational database consists of tables. Tables consist of rows and columns. Rows and columns, which can also be referred as records and fields. Okay? So in here, there's two tables. In this database we are working on, in the textbook, there's two tables. All right? The first table, okay, it has a category and the name. So category 1 is animation, category 2 is comedy, category 3 is history. Okay, so what is the primary key for this table? Category ID. So we should always think of any table has to have at least one primary key. Could be 2 columns as a primary key. At least one primary key. All right? Do you see any repeat in here? There's no repeat. 1, 2, 3, right? look at this in here. There's another table which has the movie. The movie ID is what? The primary key. The category ID coming from where? From this table. That's why we call it foreign key. And then we have the name of the movie, we have the year of production, and we have the money it made. Okay, the money it made. So two tables, all right? We could join them together for, okay. So for example, what's the category of this movie, the last movie?
History.
Three. Can I tell from the table what is the category? I cannot. So what I have to join this table with this table to know 3 means what? Mysteries. All right? When you look at real databases, they're built of tens of tables. It's not as small, not two, tens of tables. Okay? And the relationship could be 1 to 1, 1 to many, and many to many. So for example, in here, the category ID, the relationship is what? 1 to many.
Oh,
So one category could have many movies. One category has many movies. Right? All right. So in the two tables we have in there is the category ID and the name. So this is the columns in the category table. Okay. Each column or each category has a type. So that type could be integer, text, flop. Okay. You could define it when you create the table. It could be null. It cannot be null. What is the default value? So the default value is in here null unless you assign it. Is it a primary key? No. Is it primary key? No. Foreign key? No. No. All right. The other table. Okay. So how many columns we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Movie ID, category ID, name, year, minutes. All right. Movie ID. The data type is integer. Not null? Yes. The default value is not. Primary key? Yes. Is it a foreign key? No. And so on and so forth, right? And that's when you design your database. The data types could be text, integer, real, or plop. Okay, plop. Okay, which is binary large object. Binary large object. Like what? Like image. Like an image, right? So the structured query language, SQL, is a standard language. You could use it in Oracle, you could use it in SQL, you could use it in SQLite. It's a standard, it's a language. you could use it with any database. It's a simple language, okay? Once you learn it, once you know it, you could use it everywhere. Sorry. All right. So you could divide the language into two categories: SQL data manipulation language. Manipulation. Forget about this now. So you could for SQL data definition language. That's to define the database. So what are you gonna do? Create database. So what you do first? You have to create a database. What is a database? A file. Right? A file. It's a binary file. You cannot read it. Okay? You can read it through the program, but if you open it as a file, you cannot read it. Alright? Then you're gonna create a table or tables inside it. You also could drop tables, remove tables, delete tables, drop tables, and you could drop the database. Okay? So it's like a container. Database is like a container. Okay, database. Okay, you could create databases. So for example, database 1. Could create another database, call it hello. Whatever. Right? Inside that database, you're gonna create tables. Okay. Inside the tables, what you're gonna have? do you have? Columns plus rows. Right? So you have a database management system, okay, like a server. You could create multiple databases inside it. Each database will have a bunch of tables. Each table will have columns plus rows. All right? All right? And then after that, you populate the tables with data, with your data, right? Okay? So that's what you do. So you could create a database, or you could delete it. You could create a table or delete it. You could modify the table, add columns, add rows, columns, usually add columms, okay? Which we call it attributes, or remove them, define them. So what is this section? We call it data definition language. You're defining the database. You're defining the database. All right? After you define the database, you try to populate it, right? Then we come in here to data manipulation. You're manipulating. So select. What's select for? For querying the database. Select all the students that their last name starts with C. Query. Select all the students from the tables that they were born before 1980. Query. And so on and so forth. Select. All right? Then you have insert. What does insert do? Insert data on the tables, or on multiple, or in multiple tables at the same time. Okay? Update. What's update? You update a record in the database. There is, like for example, Shakura was named in the previous one. The birthday is 1990. You need to update it to make it 1980. Update. All right? And then delete. Delete what?
The table, data?
A row, a record, right? Not a column, a record, right? So let's say that you have this table for the current students in the Python. One of you dropped after the bad midterm. What do you have to do? Delete him from the table, right? And so on and so forth, right? Very simple. This is a nice tutorial. I recommend that you go over it. I added for you yesterday. So in here, this is a nice tutorial. Okay, so this is SQLite tutorial. Go through it, please. I will give you overview. The installation is very simple to install it. You just download and zip it, and that's it. It's not a server. Then the commands, the syntax, the data types. Then you learn how to create a database, how to attach a database, how to detach a database. How to create a table, right? How to insert a query, how to select a query, the operators, the expressions, the where clause, which comes with select, all right? The and or clauses, because sometimes, add or select the students who live in Bridgeport and their age, whatever, right? Or okay, to make it like complex, delete a query, like, and all of these. So if you go through these examples, it will take you like a couple of hours. You will be good in database, or at least the beginning of the database, right? For downloading it, okay. So go to the SQLite.org, okay, download, and go for Windows if you have a Windows, whatever machine, download like a bundle of command line. It will be a zip file. Just paste it in your C drive. That's what I did in C drive in here. Okay, you'll find the three executable files. The one we use SQLite 3. Okay, SQLite 3, and add it to the path. So when you go, for example, in here CMD, okay, SQLite 3, okay, it's running. Okay, you could go there from anywhere. Right? SQLite 3. Right? And then you could go through the exercises in that website. You'll be able. I mean, 1 hour, I think, 2 hours at most. You'll have good background. Anybody did not take database before at all? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very easy. Just go through the website. Okay, and if you have any questions, stop by my office. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? No. That's good. Okay. All right, let's take a look at these sentences. Just I'll go a little bit further with the. So, for example, if I say select asterisk means what? Everything. Okay, from certain table, where is a condition, order by, ascending, descending. Let's take an example. So, look in here. I mean, you should tell me what does it do. Select everything from movie. Where is movie table? Where is the movie table? That's the movie table. Okay? Select all the rows from the movie table. Where is it? If I stop here,
It will give you the whole thing.
it will give you everything. If I stop here, it will print the whole table for me. Right? Okay? But what I said, where category ID is equals to. So it printed for me only the lines, the records where the category ID equals to. Right? If I change it, for example, okay, where the minutes, for example, the minutes is greater than 91, how many it will print?
Everyone that
You have to go back to the table to check. Yeah, everyone. Okay. So greater than 91. 1, 2. Counts. 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We print 9 lines. Right? Alright? So the main one, the only sentence for querying the data is the select statement, as you see it in here. Alright? Look in here, this is another select statement. select, do I have asterisk in here? No, I have only 2 attributes that it's gonna print only the 2 attributes. What are the 2 attributes? Name and minutes. That's why we have name and minutes. If I remove, I put asterisks in here, it will list all the attributes. From movie, so we are going to the movie table, where minutes is less than 90. Order by minutes ascending. So it listed all the movies that less than 90. How many we have less than 90? 3, and 81, 81, 83 ascending. If I say descending, 83 gonna go in top. Yes.
Do we first have to select the whole table and then select the name and minutes, or directly?
That's what we did. So we selected the whole table from movie.
Okay. Also, so select name and minutes from
The movie
Okay.
table.
select the column you want from the table you want.
Exactly. And the condition. Now the where, it could be very complex. Because you have or, and, multiple, you need a complex query. Also, you could join 2 tables. So the condition comes from one table, the other condition from the other table. It could be much more complex. That's a database. All right? So for example, in here, look in here. So in here, select movie.name. Some attribute name from the movie. Why I had to use the table name in here? Because I have name and name. We have name in the category table, and there is name in the movie table. So it'll be confusing if I don't specify which table is coming from. So in here I take select name attribute from the movie table, comma, name attribute from the category table, and give it name, category name. So that's why when it appears as category name. It's kind of renaming it. All right? And then the minutes. I could say minutes as M. Then here it will appear as M. All right? You could rename the header of the table. You could rename the header. You could rename the attributes. I'm selecting that from where? From where? From two tables. Okay? So for example, okay, this coming from where? The name coming from the movie. This is coming from where? From the category ID. So there is information coming from two tables. What should I do with the two tables? Join them. Join them. How can you join them? In? Huh?
Using join.
Yes, we're using join, but what you should have? You should have a common attribute in the tables, right? So what is a common attribute in the tables? The primary key and the foreign key, right? So here what we say is join movie, join category. So I join movie table with the category table on category.category ID equals movie.category ID. So this here is a primary key. In here it's what? A foreign key. So we join the two tables. When we join the two tables, then I use the where statement, minutes less than 90, and order by, whatever. Okay. So in here, what happened in here? Name is coming from where? This attribute coming from the movies table. Category name coming from category table. Okay. And minutes coming from the movies table. And what's the condition? Less than 90. So I have 3 columns. In here, how many I ask? Select 3 columns from 2 tables. All right? You could join 2, 3, 4 tables. Database could be a complex thing. Understanding SQL is like, okay? It's a thing. And here we're just going simple, right? Now the other one is insert. Insert. So for example, insert into movie. What is movie in here? Table. Okay. Movie has how many columns? How many attributes? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So insert into movie the name, the year, the minutes, the category ID, and then I specify the values. So for name, Juno. For year, 2007. For minute, 96. And for category ID, we have 2. I inserted how many records? 1. Guys, you need to wake up and talk to me. Okay, you said how many records? 1 record, all right? In here, I did not specify the attributes. If I do not specify the attributes, I must enter them in order. I must enter them in order. If I were you, I always like to be clear in my program. I like to add the attribute, just in case, right? The attributes. Clear? Then you have update. What does update do? Modify a record already there, already stored in the database. So in here, update, which table? Movie. Set minutes to 84. Okay, where movie ID equals 4. So any movie that has movie ID equals 4, set the minutes to 84. So which attribute we changed in here? The minutes. The minutes. Set the minutes. For which columns? The columns where the movie ID equals 4. Okay, movie ID equals 4. So how many records we updated in here? 1. Why? Because movie ID is primary key. How many records have the same primary key? Only 1. If I change it in here to minutes less than 90. So how many are gonna change? 3. Because I have 3 movies less than 90. Alright. So when I did this, when I execute this command, it does do the work right away in the database? Yes or no? The change will happen immediately in the database?
Yeah.
No. I have to do comment. So it will change it in the memory. I have to do comment. All right. So in here, for example, what I'm doing in here, a statement that deletes one row from a table. Delete from movie, where movie ID 14. So how many records will be deleted? One. Why? Because I'm using movie ID 14. Is it one or more? One. Because movie ID is a primary key. And the table I have one primary key. What if I say, for example, where minutes greater or less than 90? How many will be deleted? 3. All matches, right? In here, delete from movie, where year equals 19, 79. Yes.
If I delete the movie from the data primary key, what happened to the movie in the other table? Let's say that I also have a movie ID in the secondary table that has other types of data. And if I delete from the primary key, does it also delete from everywhere?
Sure. That's why we get cascaded together. Okay, will be cascaded together. All right. And usually, you know, if you delete a record, a private record where it has access in different tables, I mean, when you create the table, you do cascading them together to remove them from all the tables also. Yeah. So now, how to display a database? You have a database in here, okay? So if you download, it's not going to work anymore because in Firefox, there is a plug-in that you could display a database. I tried it yesterday; it does not work. It seems this plug-in does not work with the new Firefox. All right, the new Firefox. So you know, you could download it, you could try it. It's not going to work, right? But I looked for another application called dbeaver.jo, dbeaver.io. So it's a nice tool. You could display the database. So I downloaded it myself in here. Okay, so you could display the, so for example, the categories. This is the category, right? So it has like, this is the column names, this is the data type, okay, and the attributes. This is the movie, for example, it has 4, 1, 2, or 5, it has the movie ID, the category ID, the name, and the year. And you could look at the data, you could look at the data. So this is the data stored in that table, all right? So there is, there is many. Just search for database management software. Some of them for free. You could find. This is, for example, this is a community version where you could download it. Just go in here. Here, go dbeaver community, and just download the Windows 64-bit, whatever. Okay, download it, or you could download. That's what I downloaded in here. I think. The one in here I downloaded, and it could use it to display the content of the database, right? Instead of like Firefox. Firefox is not working anymore. So basically, you could, in here, for example, go.
Is that new? The Firefox?
The new one does not work.
Really?
And then I tried,
In IoT,
Yeah.
when we did the
Yeah.
SQLite, it was working.
Did it work with you?
Yeah.
Did you have a newer version of?
Maybe not.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I tried to download. I did not have Firefox in my home desktop. I downloaded it, and I was not able to display it. So I did some Google. They said with the newer one does not work. So maybe they will fix it soon. But this is this is another. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So basically, you could file. Open file. You could select where is your database file, and you open it. You could be able to display it, and you'll be able to add data also. So you could in here, for example, you could have in here. I'm not sure if I will be able to add data. Let me just check. Maybe not. Maybe
So this is only gonna work if we use command line. If we use SQLite and PyCharm, it's not gonna work.
I did not try it. Maybe it will work. Yeah. database, you know access the database from PyCharm?
Yeah.
Fine, and then let's try it. Okay, try this, okay, but it's gonna work. All right? Any questions so far? So same thing in here. The syntax for select statement gets selected columns. So here, for example, select. Did they go over this? Maybe I did. Yeah. I did. All right. So now, to work with that with your program in Python. So what is the first thing you have to do? You have to import SQLite 3. All right. And the first step you have to do is to create a connection. You have to create a connection. So the module comes with a connect. All you have to say the module, the SQLite.connect, and you put the file, the database file you have. Okay, the database you have, and you save it to a variable called connect. So what is con is a connection. All right. So this is where you connect it to the database. All right, connected to the database. Of course, the procedure, if you're connected to Oracle or SQL, Microsoft, it will be different. You have to search it and you have to follow the steps. So the first thing, you're going to create a connection variable. Very simple. Okay? Then after that, like example in here, for example, SQLite.connect, and the file I have movies.SQLite. Okay? All right. Then after that, okay, you know, this is if it's in the same directory. If it's in a different directory, you have to include the path where it is. All right, you have to include the path where it is. Just you have to look for the file in your desktop, right? And if it's Win32, that's how you include it. If it's Mac or Linux, that's how you include it. You could take a look at that. So what is the first step?
What the
Connection. Create the connection. All right. You have to know where's your file saved in your desktop, and you have to create the connection variable. Good? All right. All right. At the end of your usage, you have to make sure you close the connection. How you do that? Connect, whatever, dot, close. All right, that's at the end. So you have to do the connection first, and then you have to do the close. You have to close the database, right? Then after that, you have to create a cursor. Okay? Like for example, when you have a screen in front of you. Okay, when you read or you type, where do you type at? At the cursor. Where's the cursor? Right? That's where the cursor coming, right? So cursor is kind of a temporary memory where you take the data from, where you store the data. All right? So if you need to read data from the database, first you have to bring it where? To the cursor. If you need to write the data to the database, first you have to put it where? In the cursor. All right? Same for example, if you look in here, if I need to type something, if I need to bring something in here, what I have to do? I have to put the cursor in here, right? If I need to type something in here, hello, in that location, what I have to do? I have to put the cursor there, right? You understand that where's the cursor word coming from, right? Same thing. If I need to read data or data, I have to put the cursor. All right. Okay. So okay, the cursor. Then you have to execute the query. You have to execute the query at the cursor. Right? You have to execute the query at the cursor. So look in here what we did. From the connection dot cursor, I create the cursor. I name the cursor as C. So first of all, I create the connection. Then from the connection, I have to create cursor. All right. So then you execute the command or the query. So what is the first thing you have to do? You have to know what's a query. So create a query, save it in a variable. So how to execute the select statement in here? Query, call the query or Q. and select asterisk from movie. Okay. This is what is this? A query. What does it do? Select all the records. How can I execute this? C. What is C?
Cursor.
Is a cursor. Execute. Execute what? A query. So first of all, I have to do connection. Number 2, create the cursor. Number 3, create the query. Number 4, execute the query. 4 steps. Number 5,
Commit.
commit. Number 6,
Close.
close. Okay. Select does not need commit, by the way. Okay. Update it needs a commit and all of that, right? So in here, for example, there is a query. We put it in a three columns because okay. So in here, select from asterisk from movie. What I'm selecting? All the attributes, all the columns. So select will tell me all the columns. Where will tell me all the rows, which rows, right? Where minutes less than variable. So this is I have to pass it from where? From the program. Okay? So in here, C, what is C? Cursor, execute, query. The query has what? Variable. So the question mark will be substituted with 90. So what will be the query? Select asterisk from movie where minutes less than 90. I could have multiple variables. I could have multiple variables. Question mark, question mark, question. If I have only one variable, when I pass it, I have to have comma. If I have two variables, I have 90, 80, for example, I don't have to pass the other.
Do you not
comma.
put another comment at the end? Okay.
Only if it's one. You pass me one. Okay. All right. So basically, you have to add the empty clause. So the best thing is always to make the closing like in the files. You always could close when you open a file. You could close it manually, or you could close it automatically. How you close it automatically? With the files. You just add the term, right? You use with, right? With, okay, with, and then it will close automatically after you use it. Same thing in here. To make it automatic, all you have to do, import from context lib the closing. Just import this library. And then very simple. You say with the closing, okay, what about the resource as name and the statement? So example, with closing, what is connect? Is a connection. Cursor. So what I'm doing in here? I'm creating what? A cursor. What I'm naming it? C. So I have to create the connection before. Then I create a cursor with the statement. Okay, and then what I put in here? The query. Query select asterisk from movie, and then execute the query. So once this query executed, what will happen with the connection? Closed automatically. Automatically. Clear? It will be closed automatically. Now, let's say that we selected the data, right? So selected the data. I mean, the query. What is the result of the query?
Table.
Table. And table is built of what?
Rows.
Rows. What we call this rows? Records. So how many records we have in that query? It could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 100, it could be 1,000, right? Depends on the query, right? All right, so I need to read it to my program. How can I read this data to program? By fetching it. So we have fetch 1, you fetch 1 row, and fetch all of them. When you fetch the data, saved in where? In a list. Fetch 1 will fetch the row and save it where? in a list. When you say fetch all, we'll fetch the data, save it where? In a list of a list. So each list will have one row, list of the list. Clear? So let me repeat. We have a database. The database is built of tables. The tables have data. So I need to get data or write data to that database. What I have to do first, I have to know number 0 in order, 0. I have to know the path for that file, the database. Number 1, I have to connect to that file. Number 2, I have to create a cursor. Number 3, I have to create query. Number 5 or 4, I have to execute. Okay, number 5, comment if it's, I'm talking about select. Number 5, closing the connection. Okay, and number 6, fetch the data. Fetch the data. I need to bring it to my. I need to work with it. I need to give the data. So either I could fetch one record or I could fetch all the records. If I fetch one record, it saves it where? In list. If I fetch all the data, all the all the table, where will be saved? List of the list. Then I have it. Now I brought it from the database. I put it where? In the list in my program. Then I could do whatever I want with it. I could print it to the screen. I could modify it, write it back to the database. I could do whatever with it. Okay? Steps, right? So look at here. So with closing, so in here, connect cursor. I'm creating a cursor. I'm naming it C. Query. I create a query with one variable. Then executing the query. Aha. So in here, what I'm doing? The query fetch 1. So I'm fetching the first record and saving it where? Movie. What is a movie?
List.
It's a list. It's a list. I got it to my list. I could do whatever I want. So look in here, for example, print. Okay. So the list, my list, the movie list. How many items it has?
4.
5. Wait. We have five attributes, right? Or 4? I forgot.
I think 4.
4? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get out. All right. So what I did in here, I fetched 1, right? I fetched 1, right? So I have a list of how many items? 5, right? 5. In here, what's the query? Movie ID equals 5. So what I have in the list, go back. 5. So it's category 1, Toy Story, 1995, 81, right? So movie and item 0, what will have? 5. Item 1 will have 1. Item 2, you know what I'm talking, right? When I say movie, 0, what it will give me? 1. Movie, 1 will give me what? I'm sorry, 5.
5, yeah.
And this will give me 1. And then movie, 2 will give me what?
Toy Story.
The name, what is this?
Toy Story.
Toy Story. Right? Because it's a list. Okay, let's double check. So, movie 2, what does it print in here? So in here, what will it print movie 2?
Toy Story.
Toy Story. Is there a result in here? Anyway, I don't have a result in here. Okay. Toy Story. So then I have in here the year, then the minute. Okay. How to access columns by name. Columns by name. So in here, how am I accessing them? By index. All right. What if I do modification for my program? Like the database.
Oh, so it'll be.
So it's not going to work, right? So the best thing is to use it by the title of the column, right? Very simple. Python makes it easy. All you have to say connection, row underscore factory, SQLite row. So now, instead of having, for example, movie index 0, you could have the index ID. It's in here. So the name, the year, exactly like the title, okay. All right, by the name, you could access the data. So in here, the fetch all, so fetch one, it will fetch the first row. If I need to fetch the second row, what should I do?
Fetch again.
Fetch again, because the cursor stop at the end. If I need to fetch a third row, what should I do? Fetch again, right? Right? If I need to fetch everything once, what should I do? Fetch all. So in here with the closing, the connection, what I'm doing in here, I'm creating what? A cursor, naming it what? C. The query in here, okay? This is executing the query. In here what I'm doing? Fetching all. Now what do I have in the movies? List of lists, right? So how can I access the same thing? Okay, so print, for example, movie, name, this is what will print. For movie, in movies, I took the first line. Then for movie, I print the name and all of that, right? It's like two loops to print it all. Okay? Right? Looping it through a matrix, two-dimensional matrix. Easy. To update or delete, what should I do? Commit. If I don't do commit, nothing will be reflected in the database. You have to commit. All right? So for example, insert in here, name, Juno, year, 2007, minutes, whatever, category, whatever. So with the closing, I'm creating a cursor. Then in here, SQL, what is this?
Query.
A query, not a query. I mean, it's like a SQL statement. Query is for select, right? Statement. So I said insert into movie, the table movie, name, year, minute, category, values. And here what I did. How many variables I have? 4. Do I have to include comma at the end? No. If I have only one, do I have to include the comma at the end? Yes. Why?
You don't know.
I don't know. Right? Okay, that's how they designed it, right? Then execute. I'm executing what? The query. And I'm passing in here what? The values. I finish that, what I have to do? Comment. If I don't do this, what happens? Nothing. Nothing will be happen to be in the memory. Same thing with the update, right? Same thing with the delete. All right. Let's take a look at this this program. Okay. So import. Okay. So the first step. Let's take a look at the whole program. What is the first step I have to do? I have to import the SQLite. If I'm using Oracle, I have to import the library related to Oracle. Microsoft, I have to import the library related to Microsoft. MySQL, you understand? Then after that, I have to use context-led closing. What that allows me to have automatic closing, right? Then the first step, what's the first step? Step number 0. I have to know where is the location of my data file. So it's in the same directory in my case, it's in here. So step number one, I have to do connect to the database. I save it in the connection variable. Why do I need this sentence in here? Connect the row factory. That I can access the tables by column name, not only by index. By column name, not by the index. Very simple. Included in all your programs. That's very simple. Okay? Then after that, now could you have errors when you're accessing the data and all of that? Always. So what you have to use is try, except. So try. So what you do with the closing, connect cursor as C. So what I'm doing, creating a cursor. What's the name of the cursor? C. Query. I'm creating a query regardless. Saving it in a variable. All right. Do you have to put the do you have to create the query in here in separate? No, you could plug it right away in here. Don't. Be organized. Create that query, easier to track it, and then put the query where in the execute. What I'm doing in here, I'm executing the query and passing what? Variables. How many variables? One. Do I need to have a comma? Yes. Why? We don't know. All right? We don't know. All right? Then movies. And here I decided to fetch one or fetch all? All. So the movies will be what? Less of less. That will be a disaster. If you have like 1,000 lines or 10,000 lines, it's gonna take forever, right? So sometimes you need to, to be very, very wise with what you do. All right? Except, so it gives you exception. Okay? The library will give you an exception. So SQLite included in here. So error, whatever the error, and you do nothing. Okay, do nothing. So if there is error, do nothing. If there is no error, everything will be saved in the movies. Now the data I fetched, where is it? In the movies. What I do with it? Anything you want. It's your call. It's your problem. Not my problem, right? Okay? All right. Then after that, in here, code that tests the database. Okay, so with the closing connection, here what I'm doing? Deleting. I have to do what? Commit. All right? So this is the class we had, the same thing, the movies, but with database. So play with it is your responsibility. All right? Let's have a break 5 minutes. Thank you. Hi everyone. So we'll continue. So as you know, when you write your code, okay? So you have your logic and all of that. So you have to have interface your code. Interface meaning that you enter instructions to your code and reading the data. So the simple output will be to the console, right? All right. And then after that, you could have like a GUI, okay, graphical interface, a graphical user interface, or you could display the data or you could enter the data, right? It's much more nicer than the console, right? Especially like for example, all the applications we have on your desktop, they are GUI, right? And the third level is to have it like web page, right? So usually the console, it will be local in the desktop. GUI, it will be local in the desktop. All right. Okay, and the web page you could, like HTTP, you could access from the, remotely, right? So GUI. All right. So how to build your GUI? All the high-level languages will provide like templates for that. So for example, in here, okay, in here you see a GUI interface. Remember we did this program with the console? And here, for example, you have like a window. The window has a title, minimize, maximize, close. All right. Then you have like a label. How many labels? 1, 2, 3, 4 labels. You have in here text box where you could enter the data, and here, this will give you the result. To calculate, this is like a push button. Okay, this is the exit button, right? GUI is very nice. So how can you do that? So GUI programming in Python, there's also many cross-platform frameworks. And there's many GUI design tools and IDs, many. By the way, it takes you some years to be expert in GUI programming. It's not easy, right? But you should know at least the basics of it. Okay? Python comes with a built-in library, built-in module called tk-enter. It's a very simple, not simple. It takes you a while to learn it, and that's what we're gonna cover in here. Okay? But and there is more advanced. So I remember last year we covered Kiwi, different library. Year before we covered Enter. Okay. Today I was planning to cover Qt, but I changed my mind. I'm gonna go back to tk-enter, simpler. I don't want to complex your lives. Especially we're gonna focus later on the data science and the pandas and all of that, right? So basically, the question in here: how can you create this like kind of interface? All right. So it comes with a library that you have to call and you have to know how to use. All right. How to use. All right. All right. So if you go to this link, for example, you'll see a lot show it to you. So just to let you know, I mean, there is a lot of GUI programming in Python, and there is like different cross-platform frameworks. Some of them you might have heard about them, like Kiwi. That's what we covered. I covered last time. That's what I covered. Year before I covered TK Enter, which is like a built-in TK Enter. Okay, and the most recent one that I wanted to cover today, but I changed my mind. I don't want you, maybe I'll give it to you as a homework to learn it. I don't know. I have to think about it. TQ, Enter. So these are different libraries. So the library is like a whole book. I mean, just to learn, for example, about a Kiwi. It's like a set of library, a library with set of methods, set of instructions that you have to learn and how to build, right? Same thing with Tinker. So it could be a whole course to learn how to use one of these libraries. Okay? And I told you it takes years until you become like a good GUI programmer. It's not. So in here, I need you just to know a little bit of the basics. I'll give you some reference also to go to. So the goal in here, for example, how to create something like that. Some that simple boxes that you could, read text and display. So we have the TK Enter, we have the constructor, which is TK. So TK Enter, everything we said in Python is what? Classes. And to call a class, how you call the class? By the constructor. You're calling the constructor, you start the class. So the constructor is TK, okay? So the methods of the root window. So the first thing you have to create a root window. This is a root window, right? And this you created by the constructor. And from the root window, you could add to it what? Push button, label, text box, okay? Many other things, right? You could add to it. You agree? Yeah. Okay. So the first thing you have to call the constructor, which will create the root window, which creates the root window. All right. Any window is gonna have a title. So what's the title in here? Future value calculator. It will have geometry. What is the geometry? Size. How many pixels by how many pixels? And it will has main loop. The main loop, it will a program that keep running. So for actions. So if you click a mouse, it will take action. Okay, if you hit a tab on it, it will take an action. So any program has to include the constructor and these three. Clear? Yes?
Why is the geometry in a string? Is SCR a string? Geometry?
Oh, it has to be, that's how they designed it. You put it like this. 200 times 300.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. So why is string? I don't know. Okay, that's how they designed it, right? Right. So again, what is the first thing you do? You import the module. Import TK Enter as TK. That's the standard as a TK. So what is a TK? Is our module that we're gonna work with. All right? It's a class, right? Any class comes with what? A constructor. So the first thing we have to do is calling a constructor. We have to call a constructor. So what we do in here, root TK. What is TK? Shortcut for Tinker. It has a constructor which is capital TK. What we did in here, we created the root window. The root window. This is the root window. Right? Then after that, the root window, we're gonna give it a title. So we give it a title. What's the title? Future value calculator. Future value calculator. Good so far. Then geometry. What's geometry? 300. What's 300? 300 pixels by 200 pixels. Okay. So how many lines we have to execute so far? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Number 5. You always have to run this root manipulate. It will keep the program running for any activity. Okay? If you don't put this command, okay? Okay, what is the first thing we have to do? Import. Okay, import what? TK, enter as TK. Okay, what's the next one?
Create constructor. Roots.
Okay, number 2, what I have to do? I have to execute these 3, right? Okay, the root, all right? Root equals TK dot TK, right? And what I did in here, I created the root. Then the last thing I have to use root dot main loop, okay, main loop. So TK dot main loop. Okay, I hope I have one. There you go. That's my window, right? Okay. Right? All right. So let me close it. Okay. If I put in here root, okay, dot title equals the title in here. Okay, root the title equal whatever I need to do, right? Okay, so root dot title equal, I think, right? Is it equal? Root dot title. Okay, actually, okay. Our first give, let's say. Okay, let's run. Our first give. So if I make it bigger, our first give, right? All right. So and so on and so forth, right? So that's what. So it's like step by step you could build a GUI. Then, yes.
Can you repeat what the root main loop is going to do again?
Okay, this is a sentence that you have to include it in all the frame and it keep looping in the background. So for example, if you hit, for example, let's execute this again. All right. Run. Gave you in here. Now, it's looping in the background, checking for any actions happens in the window.
Okay.
So now a mouse, what is the mouse is doing?
Changing the cursor.
Hovering. It's hovering over the window. So this has been reported to the program. Is there an action done in here? No. Why? Because it did not create action for hovering by mouse over it. I could. So I could, for example, I create an action. If the mouse over of it, you change the color to red. Alright? Now I'm doing it here, hitting this. What I did, I hit the mouse in this box. So how can the program know it? By the main loop. Okay? So basically you keep it there and keep the program alive. Okay? It checks everything happening to the program. Alright? And you could write the code. You could have all the interactions of your mouse and have an action. Interaction with the keyboard and have an action. Okay? In that window. Alright? Did I answer your question?
Yes. And geometry is the same thing, so root.geometry, and then...
It's for example, geometry in here, for example, root dot geometry. Did I spell it right? 300 times, for example, 500. No problem. Did I spell it right? Geometry. I'm not sure. Right. See? It changed, the size changed. Okay? So it's just the size. The size, and it's in pixels. Alright? Alright? Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, you have to have them to create an empty. Okay, empty. Actually, not 5. What are the mandatory 3? The import, the root, and the manipulate. This is good, but usually for you have to include that. Okay, then after that, you need to create frames. Now you're gonna put things inside it. What are the things you could put inside it? Frames. What is a frame? A box, a container that you could create. So, for example, let's say that I have this is my window. This is the window. And what we call it? The root window, right? Root window, right? So I could create a frame here, for example, divide this, for example, window in 2 frames. And this will have a label, a name, for example, name, and a box, age, and the box. Here, for example, ID, and the box. So frame is a logical box. You don't see it. Frame is a logical boxing, logical box. Okay? You don't see. Okay? To group items. So this frame, for example, it has how many widgets? This frame has how many widgets? Talk to me. How many widgets? This frame has how many widgets? 4. 1, 3, 4. Okay, this frame has how many widgets? 2. Okay, so frame is something invisible box that include widgets. Alright? So, how you create the frame? Very simple. Frame, and you put the parent. What's the parent in our example?
Name.
Root. The root, right? That's what we call it, right? What's root? Call it root. You could call it W. You could call it Alex. You could call it John. Okay? So the frame, okay, and the parent. For example, you're creating a button from the parent and the text. Frame, the parent, and the padding, if you need to have a padding, right? And then after that, you have to pack. What does it mean a pack? It will not appear in the class unless you have a pack. So pack is like what in databases? Commit. Okay? It's like commit. You have to pack it to the window, right? So let's take example. So from TK enter, import TTK. All right? So what we do in here, TTK, what does it include? The widgets. All right. So we create a frame. ttk.frame. The frame, where is it located on? On the parent. What's the parent? The root. What is the root? The main window. And I'm creating a padding 10, 10, 10 from the four sides. From the four sides, right? Now, frame to exist on top of the root, which is our main window, what I have to do? Pack it. So I say frame.pack, and it will fill it from both sides and expand with it. If you expand the window, it will expand with it. All right? So again, now we finished from the root window. We have to find 5 commands to create a full root window, right? Now we're going to add items to it. The first item, usually we add a frame. You don't have to. Frame, it could combine different widgets, right? To add a frame, you have to create the object. So you call the TTK, which is a library for all the widgets. Okay, TTK frame, and it's located in this root. Because in one program, you could create many windows. Root 1, root 2, you want multiple windows at the same time, right? So it's gonna go in this parent, and that's the padding, all right? And you have to pack it. And you have to pack it. All right. If you pack another element or another widget, where it goes? Below it. A third one below it. So it's like this frame, it will, the first element pack it in here, here, and so on and so forth. All right. So now let's add 2 buttons. So we created the window. We added 1 frame. Now we're gonna add what? 2 buttons. Where? To what?
Frame.
To the frame. Okay. I can add it to the main window. Could I add it to the main window without a frame?
Yes.
Yes. So it's a good way. I mean, usually you divide your window into multiple frames. Okay. So you could add. So here, what you did, button 1, TTK button. Where is the parent? What is the parent? Frame. Could it be the root? It could be, but we're going to frame. And then every widget has different attributes. Depends on the function. You have to learn it. So the button. What the button has usually? Text. So what is the text? Click me. Button 2. What's the text? No. Click me. All right. Right. Now, will it appear when I do these 2 lines? Will it appear in the window?
No.
In the frame? No. What I have to do?
Pack.
Pack it. Pack. Execute. You get it. Now, what are the buttons supposed to do? What we do with what do with the buttons?
Click them.
Huh? Click them, right? I'm not talking about Billy button. I'm talking about this button, right? Okay. What do you do with it?
Some function.
Exactly. You click on it. It's supposed to do a function. It's going to do a function here so far. Why? I did not put a function. So that means I could add something what has to execute when you click on it, right? All right. So there's a command called destroy. What does destroy do? Close the window. Okay. So close the root. So what I'm doing in here, look, button 1, I'm rewriting this in here. I'm rewriting these stupid buttons, putting more functionality to it. So button 1, TTK button, the parent is a frame, the text is click me, and what I'm saying in here, command click button 1. Okay, command click button 1, and the command click button 2. All right, click button 2. What is a click button 1 and click button 2?
Functions.
Methods I'm gonna write. So when I click in that button, it's gonna execute a method. I write it. All right. So that's what I did in here. Click button 1. It's a method, a function. What do I do with it? Root title. I'm changing the title of the root.
You don't need it. It doesn't have to be a call.
What?
Like, you don't have to have parentheses for a click button up top.
Where?
Command equals
No,
click
you
button.
don't.
Oh.
You're calling a function, right? Okay? You don't. All right? So if you click the button, what you are doing? You're changing the title of the window. In here, if I click here and here, click to what I'm doing?
Close.
I'm closing the whole window. I'm closing the whole window. And that's the GUI. And this is the buttons attached. And if I click on this, what will happen? The title will change to what? You click the button, okay? If I hit this, what will happen? It's like crossing the whole program, right? So how many widgets they have in here in this window?
2.
About 3. About the frame. We have a frame. On top of the frame we have. So we have a window. In top of the window I have a frame. In the frame I have two buttons.
What do you mean by a wedge?
Huh?
What do you mean by wedge? Wedge, like if you have 3 wedges,
Wedges, that's what they call them.
is it like 3
Element.
elements?
They call them wedges. Why they call them wedges?
Don't know.
I don't know. They call them wedges, okay? Usually in the GUI, the button, the label, all of these items you could have, they call them widgets. Why they call them widgets? I don't know. All right. So in here, in this one, how many widgets we have? 5 maybe. There's a frame. We don't know. It could be 2 frames. You could have 4 frames. So this is in one frame, this is another frame, this is a frame and frame, right? We don't know. But it could be 1. All right? And how many other widgets we have? 4.
4.
We have label, text box. Right? So now we come to the label. And then entry. So what we call this? Label, what we call this? Entry. Same thing. I mean, now you could grow by yourself. I don't have to grow you up. Okay, or you have to have a manual. Okay, a manual and design your stuff and do it, right? So, for example, in here, investment label. This is okay, so here I'm creating a label. What's the parent? Frame. That means there's a frame, right? And text, what is the text? Monthly investment. And then I have to back it. Widget, back it. Then I have to have another label, okay? And I have to pack it. There is 2 ways to do the packet. You could have it in different sentence, or just dot pack. Dot pack. You can do it in 2 sentences or in 1 sentence, whatever you like. All right? So you could do it this way, or you could do it this way. Personally, I like to do it this way. Okay? You could do it this way, the way you want, right? All right. Now, the data in here, the data that we are reading and writing, what is it? It's a variable. It's a variable, right? Okay? So if you have a data, you need to display it first. You have to put it where? In a variable. And if you're reading a data, somebody inter-handed it for you there, right? You need to read it. You have to save it where? In a variable. You agree? So there is different kinds of variables. The most common one is string. The most common one is a string. It could be integer, it could be all of that. All right, so a string variable, it could be integer variable. There's, the string variable. You could get to read it in the program, like in here. 100, get. So this is what string variable. You could get, and you could set. You could set. You agree? All right. So in here, the investment text is the investment text. So TK string variable. So I'm creating a string variable that will contain the value. Investment entry, okay. TTK entry is part of the frame. That's the width, and the text variable. This is like this. It's gonna be where? It's gonna come from where? From the investment text. It's gonna come from this variable. So the first thing I have to set this variable, and then it will be displayed there. So how to create a read-only text entry field? Read-only. So look in here what I did. Okay. I created a string variable. Then it's FV text. All right. That's the entry. It's in the frame. That's the width. Then the text variable, if text. So whatever in this variable will be saved in here, and the state is read only. Read only. That means you cannot change it. Okay. Read only. How to get or set in the text entry field? Very simple. Okay. Set to set up the value. Okay. And get to read up the value. So this is to set the value and read. Set, what does it mean? You write. Get to read. Get to read. All right? So look at in here, 8 components in a grid. So how many widgets we have?
9.
Maybe 9, yeah. The frame plus the 8, right? And we have 4 labels. And we have entry. The last one is read only. Okay, read only. Okay. So some arguments of the grid method. Okay. So in here, what we are trying to do, back. When we use back. So back, what does it do?
Places them.
Place them in order. It's like in one column, like one column. How long have I for class?
5 minutes.
5 minutes on left? Really?
40 minutes.
40?
Yeah, it was 4, right?
Until 4. We have 40 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So in here, for example, in the pack. So let's say I have a button, okay, button, and I do back. Where does it put it? Here. Then I have a label, okay, label, and I do back. I'm gonna put it in here. I have, for example, another another button 2, for example. I'm gonna put it in here, right? Whenever you back it, it will put them in order, right?
However you create them.
Yes. Okay. Simple, right? The better way for layout is something called a grid. So the grid, you could create a grid like, rows and columns. So you could have, for example, multiple rows and multiple columns. So this is, for example, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, right? 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. So you could create the grid, and you could place your wedge or component wherever you want. Clear? So we're talking about placement for the components. The first technique called, what do you call it? The first technique for placing your components, what do you call it?
Packing?
Pack. The second one is in the title. The last word in the title. Tell me what's the last word in the title? Thank you. Grid. This is to create a grid. It looks like a grid, right? So in here, all right. Sorry, anybody sleeping? I'm gonna wake him up. Anybody else sleeping here? You sleeping? No. Good. Are you sleeping here? You sure? All right. Good. Cameraman, are you sleeping?
You can say yes.
Okay. He's expert in Python. He does not need to be here. Yeah. So, all right. So in here, okay, this is a grid. So what is this a grid? 4 by 4, right? All right. So I could place it. So it's much more nicer. I could organize it more.
If you create it as a grid, does it automatically put the lines?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. You could add these. Okay. All right. So some arguments of the grid is the column. Determine the column, the row, the sticky, the pad in the x axis, the pad in the y axis, the column span. So you could, for example, you have two columns, okay, span together for one component, and you could have one row spanned two components. So these are coming with what? With the grid, right? So let's take a look at this in here. All right. Can you see from the back? Can you see? Yeah. Can you see it? Yeah. All right. So in here, so what I'm creating in here? Talk to me. Label. What is a label? A wedge. where am I placing it? In the frame. What it says, this text. And I did not say dot pack, I said dot grid. Then in the grid, what variables I could have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One of these 7, or all of them, or some of them, right? So dot back, dot back, what did I include? Column 0 and row 0. So where is it included? Where's my clicker?
It's right here.
Thank you. Included. Row 0, clone, that's label, right? And here, I said where it goes, right? Sticky, TKE, okay? All right, we'll talk about sticky later, okay? Then we have after that entry, frame, the width. What does it say? Investment, right? Here, right? Investment, right? Okay. And a grid, it will be in column 1. Where's column 1? This column 1. And row 0 here.
Why are we giving width but nothing else? The rest of the.
You could. There's a lot of things you could give.
But it's already. But there you only give width, so the
Width.
rest is already.
By
Standard?
default, yes, yeah. And each wedge has different parameters come with it. You have to take a look at the manual. All right. So I'm sure. For example, here it could include the width, but by automatic it will expand maybe according to the I don't know. Okay, understand? Okay, so column. Then after that I have a label. Then after that I have entry. All right. How to add padding to components? Very simple. For components, for each one of them, for child in a frame, when in the children, okay, child the grid, bad the bad in the X level 5 and the bad in the Y. So that's one. Or you could add it individually on these ones. You could add it individually in this ones. All right. So this is a window that contains a frame. So how many? It has a frame, and then it has how many widgets? How many components? 3. Label, entry, file. By the way, different libraries, different modules, they give them different names. Okay, so mostly this will be label. This will be like text box. Here we call it entry. In here it could be push button, and here called button only, right? So it depends on the module you are using, the library that you are using. So usually what we are always trying to do to put everything in a class, right? In a class. So for example, in here, we're creating a class, okay, investment frame. So what is this? When I call this a class, what I'm creating?
Creating
A frame. All right, and what I'm passing to it, I'm creating a window. Window, and what I'm passing to it, a frame. Okay. So the first thing is first. So I have to import the TK and I have to import the widgets, the TTK, 2 libraries, always, right? For the window and for the widgets. Then I'm creating a class, and this class is inherited from the frame, from the frame, okay, from that frame. So, all right. So when I need to create this frame, what I have to call, I have to use a constructor. So I'm calling the frame constructor first. What is the frame constructor contains? The parent, window, and the padding. Remember what we did in the frame? If we go any frame example in here. Oops. So in the frame, what we pass the first thing?
Parent.
The parent and then the padding, right? Inside the class, always we start with self, right? So that's what we did in here. parent and the padding, and any method inside the class always start with self, right? Self. Same thing in the self and then the parent. Then after that, what we did in here, pack. Whenever we call this, you create the frame and then you pack. Then after that, what I'm doing here, self, monthly investment. Okay, I'm creating the variable for the value, string value. Then after that, I'm creating the label. The label, what does it have? Text. And then the grid, where it's gonna go to. Then entry. And it has the width and the text, where it's gonna go to. Okay? And then you have the bottom, which has the text which is clear, and the command, because when you push the button, there's a command. And the command, what does it do? Self-clear. It will clear. Okay? And then where it goes to. And that's what we have in here. So when I call this a class, when I create an object from this class, it's going to create this for me. You agree? Okay? So that's the class. Again, what is a class? A class is a window, a frame inherited from the major frame. Right? So what is the first thing you have to do if I need to run this program?
Create an object. Create the investment framework. Call it.
Okay. If I call this, what I'm creating?
Window.
A window or a frame?
Frame.
A frame. So this frame has to go to where? To a root window, right? Okay. So look what we did in here. Okay. So this is the padding, already explained this. Okay, it's inside. Then I have in here. Let's finish the class before we talk about this. So part of the class, what I have, the command which is clear. So I have to write a method called clear. You agree? Okay. So I wrote it in here. Clear. What does it do? Print monthly investment is this, and self monthly investment. So it will read the data what you write and does the calculation and then print it. So basically it will read and then display when you hit clear. Display that. Okay. So that's a class. This is part of the class, right? This is a class up to here. What does this include? Creating a frame, creating the widgets, which is a label, and an entry, and a push button, right? And yes?
All the wedges and labels are inside the constructor.
Yeah. They are part of the frame, they're created with the frame. When you call the frame, it will create it. Right? Okay? Now this is your main program. What you are likely doing here, what is the first thing you do? Create a root window. So root equals T, we learned that, right? So this is the constructor from the window, right? Then I'm giving it a title, we learned that. That's a title. Then what I'm doing in here?
Calling
the frame.
class.
A class which creates a frame. And the class, what I said, specify what? The root window. So that's what I did. I called the class and specified what? The root window, which I created in here. Then this will create what?
Frame.
The frame and all the four widgets inside. And then this always we have to have it in our program.
To create a bunch of different, like frames, set
Exactly.
attributes,
Exactly.
and then just
Okay? So you create it like an object. So this object now you could call it from other programs. You could import it as a module. Are you clear with me, guys? Here, this is not IoT class. This is like Python class, right? Sir? Hi. Good? All right. So the GUI for the future value calculator. This is a program written for you for a future value. So in here, how many labels you have?
4.
4. How many entry boxes?
4.
How many push buttons?
2.
Okay, what do you think the exit do?
Destroy.
Call a method, what does it have?
Destroy.
Destroy. And this calculate, what does it do?
Displays the value of future.
Get,
And set.
do the math, set. Right? So basically calculate, call a method, which it does get, set. Right? Right? It's a logic. Just once you design it, now you play with it. Let's take a look quickly. So clock the investment. Okay? I have like, you know, monthly investment 0, yearly, so that's a set. Okay, yearly investment 0, years of 0. So this is the investment at the beginning. Then, okay, what is this? Constructor. When I call this, we'll set everything for 0, the 3 values, right? Then in here, what does it do? Calculate future value. Easy, we learned how to do that. So you have monthly interest rate, you divide it by 12, multiplied by 100. You know that daily or the monthly interest rate, right? And then you need to know the number of months, because in here what you enter the years. All you have to do, multiply it by 12. The future value at the beginning, how much?
0.
0. Then for n in range months, how many months you have?
12.
12 times the years. So if there's 2 years, how much will be the months in here? 24, right? It's a logic. We really learned that before. Future value, you know, at the end, what does it return? The future value, right? It's a logic that we have learned before, future value. So what is this? A method inside the class. If I call it, it will calculate the future value. From where? From through entry values. What are the 3 entry values? Monthly investment, yearly interest rate, and years. It will be able to. So that's the engine. The engine. Okay, now who gonna call this? I mean, we have to look at the program. So in here, the other file. Okay, this is the GUI. So I have to import how many libraries? 2, the TK and the TTK, right? TK and the TTK, clear? 2 libraries, right? TK and TTK, right? And locale for what? For the currency. We learned that in the first class in this currency, right? Don't worry about it, right? So from business, import investment. Where is investment? This is a class. What is business?
File name.
The name of the file. So it's business.py. Right? Right? So class, future, frame. This is the class we created similar to it before, right? It has what? It has the frame. It has the investment. It has the, it calls the init components to initiate the components, which is in here, init components. We're gonna have like label, we're gonna back, entry, we're gonna back, and then we have a label, we're gonna back, entry, we're gonna back, and so on and so forth, all the components. Okay? So basically, instead of listing them in the same, we created what? A method to create the components. To create the components, okay? And they are created in the right place. Okay? Make buttons, okay? What is make buttons? It's a method. When you calculate in here, it will do the calculations, okay? And then after that, the same thing. Root, will create the root window. Then title. Then future value frame of the root. What does it do in here? It will create the skeleton and create the labels and the text entry and the 2 push buttons. All right, and also will calculate that. Okay, and this is always has to be there. All right. So basically, when you have application like that, what should you do? What you should do when you have an application that has a GUI, you have to have one file with a class like that to create the skeleton of the GUI of the window, right? Okay, and you have another class for your logic. Our logic in here, what we are doing, calculating a future value. It could be like calculating the GPA for a student with bunch of grades, right? The logic. We're trying to separate your logic in multiple files. Is it clear? By the way, this is the easy. I mean, this is the most simple thing. GUI is much more complex than that. And still, when you now you go you know, having like radio buttons, and you having like multiple selection and many things that you could include. I mean, like any GUI, it could include anything. All right. All right. So. All right, so I included more information data in here, for example. So for example, we spoke about the window, we spoke about the label, button, entry. Canvas is for graphics. Frame, we spoke about frame. Static drawing could have events binding. You could have option menu, radio button. You could have chat button. You could have menu. Okay, in Word, you know the menu. Menus, you could have all of these. Grid layout dialogues. All right, so take a look at it. This is like more information, more detailed information from different sources I have had. Okay, let's go quickly out. So we already learned, just to refresh your memory, we start by importing it. Okay. So we have widgets and layers. Okay. We start with the main window, and then we're adding the widgets and the layers. In the main event loop to take action against each event triggered by the user. So basically, import tinker window. In the previous we called it root. I mean, you could call it whatever. You call the constructor. Okay. You have a title, geometry, and all. So these basically the four. You have to have them in all the programs, all the programs, right? I already explained that. Okay. Now there's so many widgets that you could use: label, button, entry, canvas, frame. Okay, all of them you have to learn them. All right, you have to learn them. So I included a one link as a reference in here. Take a look at it. They are very good examples. Play with them, see how the. Now for the geometry, how many we mentioned geometry in here? I'm sorry, yeah, for the management, geometry management, pack and grid. There is a third one, which is place. So the pack, it will stick them after each other. In here, it's a 2-dimension, the grid 2-dimension, and there is a place. Place allows explicitly setting the position and the size of the wedge, either in the absolute or relative. So you could, in the grid, you have to divide your window into grid, 2 by 3, 5 by 5. And you should put it inside the grid. You could span one item in 2 or multiple grid points, but in here it could be in an exact spot. So for example, if you have, for example, your grid, for example, 200 by 200 pixels, so here will be 0 and 0. So if you say I need to place it in 100 and 100, this is 100 and 100 will be here. And it could determine the size and all of that, right? Yes?
When we're using that, does the point that you choose is in the center of the widget or is it the corner?
In the corner, the left upper corner. Always, I mean here, it's left upper corner. All right? So 3. So which one do you think the most useful for our applications, usually? I think this is very easy to handle and to organize your page, right? If you have a symbol, like few buttons, few labels, you could use this. This is, you really need to know what you're doing, okay? Anyways. So, widgets, how the label, the button, the entry, canvas, frame, static drawing, events binding. Okay, for events binding, what we have? Okay, how to handle the event, you know. So for example, mouse over the window, what you do? Clicking a mouse in a certain place, what you do? That's an event. So how you handle it? All right, what do you do with the action? So as was mentioned earlier, TK interpretation spends most of time inside an event loop, entered via main loop. Events can come from various sources, including key presses and mouse operations by the user, and redraw events from the window manager. What is redraw? If you resize, for example, you're redrawing the window. If you expand, if you minimize, you're redrawing. So what is the action for that to happen? Okay? Indirectly caused by the user in many cases. TK-Enter provides a powerful mechanism to let you deal with events yourself. For each widget, you can bind Python functions and methods to the event. So you have a widget, this is a button. Okay, you're gonna bind this event. What the event? It has a description. Mouse hover, for example. Execute this handler. Okay. If an event matching the event description occurs in the widget, the given handler is called with an object description, describing the event. All right. So as I told you, I mean, what we have covered is so simple. Okay. The last project 2 years ago, if you remember, 2 years ago, if I remember, I have given a project to paintbrush. Never give it to you again. Paintbrush to create. You know the paintbrush on Windows. You created with yeah.
The app?
Yeah. You created with Python. So for that you have to know your movement of the mouse, whether you are pressing, not pressing, what you have selected before, what color. So I asked them to create that. That was the project.
With like frame, like you create the frame and then.
You could create a circle. You could, okay. So for that kind of project, you have to know very well how to handle the events. Okay. And again, what are the events we're talking about? Pressing a mouse, continuous pressing for a mouse, right click with movement, right click with movement, right? Clicking like hovering with the mouse, so on and so forth. All the events, okay, right? Wedges events binding. So for example, he wedged the wedge which generated this event. This is a valid TK-Enter wedge, and it says not the okay. So XY, the current mouse position. So if you hover, where is the current mouse position? Extrude root, whatever, you know, different kinds of that, okay? And he just samples. We spoke about the variables. Or we spoke about the string variable, right? Right? String variable. There is other variables, and what we do with the variables, get and set. So we have string variable, we have integer variable, and we have double variables, right? So either we get them or set them. Like if you have entry, you could get or set, right? So take a look at that. The menu, you know what's menu, right? So this is in here. What is this in here? This is the menu, right? You could create menus, right? Okay. You could do all of that, right? Sorry, I have a flu so. The menu here, we were here, right? Take a look at the menu. Okay. The menu provides the following add methods. So cascade, right? What if you have multiple, I mean in Windows even, like multiple menus, cascade, whatever. Check button, command, radio button, anyway, separator. We already explained the grid layout, right? place layout, like by place and size. You could have dialogues. You could have custom dialogues. All right. This is a very good reference. I recommend that you try it out. Okay. Or any reference you like. I mean, there's lots of references, as I told you. And just fall in love with one of the. So, okay, so for example, if you'd like to learn about, for example, dialogue, right? So these are like dialogue boxes, and there's a code. There's a code. You could just cut and paste and try to run. And here, for example, okay, let's run this. See if it runs. So there is an error. Where is the error? Anybody knows where is the error? Should be small t, right in here. Because in Python 2 it was like line 2.
TK message box be a part of
What?
TK?
This one here?
Yeah, wouldn't it?
I thought it should TK internal voice up from the error is in here. I don't know, TK message box from.
Maybe M and B should not be captured again.
M? Because this is like from Python 2, so I'm not sure. Let's run it again, see what's the error. Okay. Line 2. So it seems like it does not have. I'm not sure if I have to import that library. I'm not sure. Maybe something I have to pivot. I don't know. So let's take another example. Just I have to. Do buttons. So let's try this. So here you go. This is like radio button, which we did not cover in here, but it's available. Ah, why is that moving? Okay, so radio button in here. Here. So the problem is in here it's not like flexible, you know, when you expand and all of that.
You can make it that way.
Yeah, so it's not automatic resize, you have to play with it. So it's a very primitive compared to the new ones, right? One of the new, so play with this, go over this, okay? I have to put the assignment for this class today. I don't think I thought about it yet. Maybe tonight I'll do about it. All right, but what I need you also, so this is I already added for you. One more thing that you should take a look at in here. BYQT. It's a very nice new cross-platform GUI interface. Okay, just you have to pivot. Okay, and
Instead of like TK enter.
yeah, it's much more nicer. So pip install pytq5. Do I have internet connection? I have to update the pip first. So I don't know why. It's
Pip 3.
No, it's BIP 5 it has to be. There's BIP 4, but we need to use BIP 5. Weird. I was playing with it all last night. I really liked it. Dash installer. Do I have to do this? Anyways, try it. So all you have to do, okay, pip pyqt5, and then you do pip. Okay, actually here, let me. It's in here. So no, it's not. So the nice thing is, so I mean, I did it in my home computer, works fine. So I'm not sure if my Python is old version in here or not, but I have checked out. So pip install pyqt5, and then you install it, and then you install the tools, right? After you install the tools, you go to this path lib /side package here. Okay, and there is a program that you run. Okay, which is the designer. Okay, just double click on the designer. Okay, it's called designer.py. Okay, that executable. So it will give you a window like that, a designer where you could drag. You could drag the pattern, drag like the things, all of that. Okay, drag them there. Okay. And it will create a file .ui for you.
Generates a code.
Okay, and then you convert it. There's a command which is in a scripts folder. So you say pyuic5, convert your file which is .ui, convert it to Python. So it will convert it for you. Okay, so let me add this actually here to here. I'll try to upload today the new PowerPoint file. So I'm not sure now what I'm gonna give you for this assignment. Just use TK enter, which is simpler, or let you learn about the QT, which is okay. So I'll think about it. I need to for a week or so that you could work. All right. So the summary of today's class, we basically we covered today how to access database. We gave a simple example for SQLite. Of course, if you work in MySQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL, whatever, all you have to learn the sequence, how to connect. How many steps we have to do?
5
Well, okay, 5 or 6, right? You have to connect, create a cursor, create a query, execute the query, commit if you have to commit, and close. The best thing for a closing, call it with a closing, okay? And then after that, you have to fetch the data. Okay, you could fetch one or fetch all, and then it's your all. You could play with it the way you want. This is how you connect for data. So database is a whole science by itself. I mean, it's a completely different thing. How to design your tables for your application, how to do the rational, queries and all of that. It's not part of this course. It's part of the course. Okay, we need to learn how to connect to the database, get data, and write data to it. That's it, right? Okay? Then in the second half of the class, we were talking about presenting the data. So the data could be presented to a console, which is easy, or GUI, or to the web, right? HTTP, right? Last time when I taught this class, I covered after the Django. So Django, which is like an old framework for web development. Okay, so you could present. I'm not going to cover Django in this class, but I have the module available in the campus. If you like to learn Django, go ahead and learn Django. This semester we're gonna go next. From here we're gonna go. There's other things I covered last time about like network programming and different things. Also is available in the campus for you to learn. Okay. It's free, no charge. I mean, there's no questions in the exams from it. So I think from next time, we'll start with pandas. Right? So, let me go on the campus, show you on the campus what I'm talking about.
Shall I stop here or?
Yeah, go ahead.